They hunted him for 12 years. Across 9 systems, through the debris fields of burned-out stars and the quiet orbits of forgotten moons, his name passed from whisper to warning. Some called him a war criminal. Others called him a ghost. A few, usually right before they died, realized too late that he was neither. His name was Elias Marr. Once he had been a soldier of the Terran Union fleet. Once he had been a hero, though he never liked the word. Once he had stood at the edge of humanity's extinction and done the thing no one else could bring themselves to do. That was why they hunted him. The bounty on his head had grown every year. It began as a symbolic gesture from the Karen ascendancy, an insult more than a real contract. By the 3rd year, entire mercenary flotillas were being assembled for the chance to claim it. By the 12th, even the great empires stopped asking why they wanted him dead and focused only on whether they could afford not to try. No one ever succeeded. Elias lived on a dust-choked rock orbiting a red dwarf star that barely deserved the name Sun. The planet had no official designation anymore. Its mining operations had collapsed decades ago, leaving behind rusted habitats and tunnels that sank kilometers into the crust. It was a place no sane being would choose to live. That was precisely why he chose it. He woke before the sun rose, not because he needed to, but because his body no longer trusted sleep. The old combat implants along his spine, long decommissioned but never removed, sent phantom alerts through his nervous system. He rolled off the narrow cot, joints protesting, and stood in the dim glow of a flickering power strip. His reflection in the cracked mirror looked older than his years. His hair was iron gray, cut short by habit rather than vanity. One eye was real. The other was a dull synthetic sphere, its surface faintly scratched, its iris permanently frozen in a neutral hue. Scars mapped his body like a history lesson no one wanted to teach. He pulled on a jacket reinforced with outdated ballistic weave and checked the small arsenal hidden beneath the floor panels. Everything was clean. Everything was ready. It always was. 12 years of running had taught him one truth above all others. The hunt never stopped, only paused. That morning, the pause ended. His warning came not from sensors but from instinct. A subtle shift in the air pressure inside the habitat, a faint vibration in the ground that didn't match the planet's usual seismic groans. Ships. Plural. Elias exhaled slowly and closed his eyes. "So," he muttered to the empty room, "you finally found me." The Karen Ascendancy fleet emerged from folded space with brutal precision. Sleek, obsidian-hulled vessels arranged themselves in a kill formation above the planet. Their commander, High Executor Vresh Tal, watched the scans with satisfaction curling through his thorax. "Confirm target location," Vresh Tal clicked. "Yes, Executor," his aide replied. "Thermal and biosignature matches Elias Marr, human, former Terran Union fleet veteran." "Former," Vresh Tal repeated, an important word. The Karen had never forgiven the humans for what happened at the gate of Ashkelon. Entire academies had been devoted to studying the event. Entire generations had grown up with Mar's name spoken like a curse. A single human soldier had broken the Karen expansion, not with fleets, not with diplomacy, with a choice. Vresh Tal remembered the recordings. He had been young then, barely hatched, but the images were burned into every Karen mind. A lone human cruiser, battered beyond reason, ramming itself into the dimensional stabilizer that powered the Ascendancy's gate network. Marr had overridden the failsafes. He had detonated the core manually. The explosion collapsed 17 gates and erased half a sector from navigable space. It saved humanity. It crippled the Ascendancy. And it should have killed Elias Marr. Instead, he survived. And survival, to the Karen, was an unforgivable defiance. "Deploy ground units," Vresh Tal ordered.
I want his body, intact if possible. Dropships screamed through the thin atmosphere like blades. Elias watched them from the ridge above the old mining complex. He didn't run. Running was for people who believed escape was permanent. He believed only in delay. He activated the comm implant behind his ear. Static answered him at first, then a signal he hadn't used in years. "This is Mar," he said quietly. "They're here." There was a long pause. Then a voice, distorted and old, but unmistakably human, replied, 12 years late. Thought you died." "So did they. Guess we were both wrong. Can you hold?" Elias watched the dropships land, watched Karen's soldiers fan out with mechanical precision. He counted them automatically. Too many. "No," he said, "but that was never the plan." The line went dead. The first shot rang out seconds later. Elias moved like the man that he had been trained to be, not the man that his body had become. He used the terrain, the broken machinery, the narrow tunnels of the old mine shafts. Karen troops died without ever seeing him, their armor pierced at weak points only a veteran of interspecies war would know. But they adapted. They always did. Energy nets collapsed tunnels. Shock troops forced him into the open. A plasma round clipped his shoulder, burning through flesh and muscle. Pain flared, sharp and bright, and he welcomed it. Pain meant he was still alive. When they finally surrounded him, weapons trained from every angle, Elias was on one knee, breathing hard, blood soaking into the red dust. High Executor Vreshtal descended personally. "You ran for 12 years. Did you truly believe you could escape justice forever?" Elias looked up at the towering alien and smiled faintly. "Justice?" he rasped. "No, I believed you'd need me." Vreshtal's mandibles twitched. "You are no longer useful." "That's where you're wrong," Elias said. "I'm the only one who can stop what's coming." Silence followed. Vreshtal laughed, a dry, clicking sound. "Humans always say that." Elias's smile faded. "Then you never listened." The sky burned. A tear opened in space itself, not like a gate, but like a wound. Reality twisted, screamed, and began to fold inward. Karen's sensors went blind in a cascade of failures. Vreshtal spun, horror flooding his neural network. "Report." "There is no classification," an officer stammered. "It's not human. It's not known." Elias pushed himself upright, every movement agony. "That," he said softly, "is why you should have killed me when you had the chance." The thing emerging from the rift was ancient beyond comprehension, a lattice of impossible geometry and living darkness stretching across kilometers, its presence crushing thought itself. It was drawn by the collapsed gates, by the scars Elias had helped carve into space-time. Humanity had named it once, in whispers, the Devourer between. "You see," Elias continued, voice steady despite the chaos, "when I destroyed the gates, I didn't just stop you, I sealed it away, and sealing always weakens with time." Vreshtal stared at him. "You brought this upon us." "No," Elias said. "You did. Expansion has consequences." The Devourer moved. Fleets vanished. Planets screamed. Elias activated the final implant still embedded in his spine, the one he had never dared use again. "I can close it, but only once, and not from here." Vreshtal hesitated, pride warring with survival. "Why would we trust you?" the Executor demanded. Elias met his gaze, eyes burning with a tired, terrible resolve. "Because I already proved that I'm willing to die for this galaxy." The Devourer roared. And for the first time in 12 years, the hunters realized the truth. They had not been chasing a fugitive. They had been chasing the last lock on a door that should never open.